My Waterbury says it's time.
What in the world is that?
Welcome to the weekly meeting of the High Noon Club, voluntary discussion group. I think everybody here has been here before and is acquainted with the ground rules and what we're going to be doing. We got a pretty full schedule going. So let's, we got the minister's going to lead us in prayer, and then Scott's going to lead us in the pledge. So if you stand, please.
Let's pray. Father, we thank you for the joy of being able to live in America. Father, we have not been good stewards, but we pray, Lord, you'll help us to be good stewards of it. Father, help us to have a mindset, Lord, that you're in charge. We need to be responsible for some of the things that you've given us to be responsible for. Father, we ask you to bless this group. Father, use the knowledge, information that we get from it to go out and to tell others. Father, thank you again for your love, for your salvation plan of eternity. Father, for choosing us to be a part of it. It is in your name that we pray. Amen.
Amen. Raise the flag. Salute. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Okay, I want to make a few announcements before we get started. I'm trying to get back into the regular routine of the High Noon Club. There's a couple of points that I want to mention it by way of an announcement. We've got a political race going out in Canadian County for the sheriff, and it's pretty active politically, but Josh Moore has invited Sheriff Mack with the National Police Officers Association to come out and address a fundraiser for the it will be held at the Canadian County Fairgrounds at Pavilion Building at 6 o'clock, May the 7th, which is this coming Saturday. So that might prove to be interesting. And the chairman, the moderator has the privilege. I have the reputation, I think, of being concerned with our financial situation. And I'm personally of the opinion that our debt is going to take us down. And I need to announce that as of yesterday, each citizen owes $59,559, period. That's citizens that are citizens of this nation. That doesn't include the 200,000 foreigners. They have no part of our debt. They have a great deal to do with why we have that debt. The national debt per citizen is $200,462 as of yesterday. Now, when I'm watching the debt clock, it just keeps rolling. I don't know what it is today, but that's what it was last night about 6 o'clock when I looked at it. So, good luck, y'all. Most all of us are seniors, and we're trying to be concerned with how we can maintain some kind of a standard of living between now and when we expire. So I don't know how that's going to turn out, but I know that we've got some concern. Of course, part of what I want is to be able to turn some of my savings over to my kids and my grandkids as an inheritance. And of course, I think probably y'all include that in your same plans. And much more than what I've got won't help them very much if our economy keeps inflating the way it is. We've got a couple of speakers here today that I want to give as much time to as we possibly can. Nick Berry and Desiree Brown. Nick is running for the State House District 85, and Desiree is running for our federal district, Frank Lucas's seat in District 3. So without further ado, I'm gonna open it up for Nick, and we've got 45 minutes available, Nick, but please leave some room on the end for some of us to ask questions. So,
Sure.
so Nick,
I won't talk for very much of it. So I appreciate being here, and like he said, my name's Nick Berry. I'm running for House District 85. House District 85, if you guys remember, we had a special election, and what happened at that special election was a lady named Sydney Munson won on the Democrat side for the first time in about 35 plus years, depending on, it's been gerrymandered so much, kind of change how you count it. But for 35 years, that's been a Republican district in the heart of Oklahoma City, and we lost it. And what that shows is that the political pundits are somewhat correct. Now, there was a lot of special instances with that election, but the political pundits have all said that they believe that our 5th Congressional District, Oklahoma City, will go Democrat and will turn liberal in the next decade or two. So they basically say that what it's going to do is just do what every other big city does when it urbanizes. And we're urbanizing. We are. That when it grows, a big city typically turns liberal. Bring in a lot of youth, and all of a sudden urbanizing mentality takes over, and the conservative mindset's kind of pushed to the countryside. Now, I have a huge problem with that because I'm a huge homer for Oklahoma City. I love Oklahoma City, as I'm sure most of you guys do. Oklahomans are some of the best people. You hear that no matter where you travel. If they've been to Oklahoma, they really love the people. And I think it's ridiculous that a city must secede the fact that just because it becomes prosperous economically, that it has to secede its values. Because, after all, those are the very values that got us here. That's how we got here. That's what made America great to begin with. That's why we became #1 economically, a century ago. Was because of the very values that we hold dear right here in Oklahoma and Oklahoma City. So it's kind of counterintuitive, but yet it happens on nearly every city across the nation without exception. And so that's really why I decided to run. Let me give you a little background about myself. I'm a business owner. I own a company in the oil and gas industry, and I own one in the real estate industry. And as a matter of fact, what we did in the real estate industry is kind of what I think we ought to model our economy after, which is private solutions to issues. So, Dodd-Frank Act, most of you guys have probably heard about it. Terrible, terrible piece of legislation. Knee-jerk reaction to our recession. And what it did is it was trying to strangle big banks so that they wouldn't fail and trying to protect the little guy. But what it really did, which we all know, is what every regulation does, it stamps out the free market. And so what happened was middle-class people became locked out of being able to get a mortgage. Truly locked out. So 43% of people that apply for mortgages, that's apply, are getting denied right now. And it's all because of the Dodd-Frank Act. So what my company did is we started about 2 years ago, and what we said is, if you're outside of those mortgage qualifications, we'll step up, buy whatever house you pick out on the market. Go pick any house for sale, we'll buy it, lease it to you, report that to the credit bureaus, and help get you in line with these brand new standards with the Dodd-Frank Act, and then you could go get a mortgage and transition off. So what we really were the private response to the Dodd-Frank Act. And the business is going really well. And so those are the kind of solutions that we need to be looking for. Private sector solutions to problems, not public sector. And that's with the same spirit that I decided to run for House District 85. Because it's one thing, there's four Republican candidates in House District 85. And it's one thing to vote somebody that's conservative, that'll check yes or no on the right bills most of the time. It's another thing to have somebody that can inspire a vision for where we need to go with conservative values at hand. Then, let me say it again, it's different to be able to inspire people around our conservative values as opposed to just sit back and check yes or no on the bill as it comes across your desk. And that's why I decided to run, because I've had real practical experience doing that in the private sector. So let me dive into that a little bit. What that looks like is thinking through tough issues like our budget. So our budget, for example, is a great example of how we have mismanaged funds. So the oil and gas industry that I'm in, it caused a significant shortfall for our state. But it was absolutely exacerbated by the fact that we did not manage our budget the past 4 years. So we had the recession that happened in 2008, and our budget at the state level was down. And so we used some one-time monies to fill that. That's okay, that's why you have those one-time monies, to kind of help fill a gap. But what we then did is when we recovered, which was the very next year, thanks to oil and gas, we kept using those one-time monies over and over and over. It's the equivalent of losing your job, so you dip into your savings, and then you go get a brand new $50,000 job back, and you say, well, I was drawing $5,000 a month from my savings when I didn't have a job, so now I got $5,000 plus $5,000 a month plus my $50,000 job. You just keep drawing from your savings even when you replaced it. That's what we did with our budget. And you can see how when the oil and gas market really crashed, it left us in a huge hole. So that's what exacerbated the problem. It's being able to identify those issues and really being able to articulate why that's a terrible idea to dip into your one-time savings accounts over and over when times are good. Another example on that is what I'm really proposing is doing something, a biblical example, when there was going to be a famine in Egypt. The idea was we will go store goods and crops in the storehouse. Well, that's what we need to be doing. We don't need to spend every dollar we collect. Just because you collect it doesn't mean you have to spend it. And we have to have discipline up there to be able to take some of that gross production tax that we already collect and put it into a public endowment fund, invest it, grow it, like we all do with our retirement accounts. Just take a little bit off the top every year. Don't appropriate it. So it's little things like that that can make a huge difference for us in the state. Education. Education needs to be reworked from the ground up. The reason is because we have a huge problem with being top in administration expenses and bottom in about every other category that we're supposed to be at the top in. That's a joke. That's an absolute joke. We have the greatest values right here in Oklahoma. I've traveled to nearly every state, and we have such great values, such biblical values here in this state. And for us to treat our next generation like that is ridiculous. And it has nothing to do with throwing more money. You throw more money at a bad problem, you just get more bad results. We have to change the structure of our education system. It has to be teacher-focused. I mean, what's the magic of the education system? It's the teacher-student relationship. Most of you guys, I mean, he hit on it. Most of you guys are retirement age, been around for a while. When you guys went through the education system, we focused on the teacher-student relationship as opposed to how we can create programs and processes and have these administrators and have all this special technology. It was truly a teacher who cared about the student, interacting with that student and making them a good, productive citizen and helping them succeed. Well, we have good teachers. We really do. The problem is we legislate mediocrity. We do that. We legislate mediocrity. See, when I have a good employee, what I want to do is I want to empower them to go be great. So I want to give them the autonomy under some certain controls to say, hey, go do this job to the best of your ability. I don't just put my thumb on it and say, well, I'm gonna have my thumb on you the whole time. That's what we're doing with our mandates. And it's crazy to think that some legislators up there, who a lot of them don't have experience, including myself, in the education sector, ought to be able to create mandates that ought to work from Altus to Lawton to Tulsa to Oklahoma City to Guyman. Like, they ought to be able to come up with those mandates. What we need to do is get the legislator out of education, get that back to that student-teacher and then student-parent relationship. That triangle relationship is what our education system should be built on. So we start emphasizing that and taking some of the crazy mandates out of education and let our teachers go be great. And then at the end of the day, what we really have to do is we have to be able to look out for future problems that are coming down the pipeline. A great example of this is we continue to spend more and more on our prisons. We've got to get that under control. What we have to do is we've got to take these people and we've got to set them up for success as they come out. What we have to do is we have to take them and get them job ready while they're in our prison system. They're not doing anything in there. We need to get them job ready so they can stop being a drain on society even when they get out. And they want to do that. It's a win-win for everybody. You see, when they get out of prison, a lot of times they just go right back to what they've done because they didn't get any skills. So they set in and didn't have any growth for 10, 5 years, however long they were in there. And then they end up going and committing new crimes and getting back in jail. We have one of the highest recidivism rates in the nation. And that ultimately hurts all of us hurts them, it hurts their families. We got to take care of their kids. And at the end of the day, we're paying for them to be in there. What we need to be doing is getting these people job ready, and there's some initiatives out there that are doing that. But to sum all the issues up, what I'm really excited about is the opportunity to make conservatism cultural. You see, because we have to make conservatism something that people are excited about. Because it is exciting. I mean, at the end of the day, isn't conservatism what, these same values at least, isn't that what inspired people to put their name on the Declaration of Independence though they knew it might kill them? I mean, these are exciting values. And that wasn't done by the older generation. That was done by youth. The people that are framers, they started when they were young. These ideas excited our youth at one point in our nation's history. And they have to do that once again. And that's what I'm excited about, is right here out of the heart of our city. Exciting the youth, exciting middle class, everyday Americans, everyday Oklahomans about these values and leading with these values out of the middle of our city. So I guess you can sum up why I'm running is because I'm a business owner that has better things to do with his time and would probably honestly much rather be running my companies, but really cares enough about the future of our state and our city. And probably just because I'm that big of a homer of Oklahoma City, I want to see it stay conservative. I want to see us maintain our values. So that's kind of why I'm running. And like I said, I'll be short. So with that, I'll just open up to questions. If you guys have any questions, let me know.
I must ask you a personal question. Are you Nick Berry, the artist's son?
I'm not. I'm not related to Nick Berry at all.
Oh,
the
you're
artist.
not?
No, not at all.
Very peculiar?
Nope, not at all. But I have got mistaken for him quite a bit.
Well, you kind of look like him. You really do.
Do I?
Yeah.
I've never met Nick Berry, to be honest
Oh,
with you.
he's really great.
I've heard he's great. Yeah.
Yeah. Dark hair. Looks like you.
My name's Don. What are some reasons that you would allow abortions in the state of Oklahoma?
Sure. So that gets down to a fundamental issue: is abortion murder or not? I believe it is. I'm a Christian, and my faith tells me that. You feel free to disagree, but that's what I believe. I believe it's murder. So under that circumstance, I don't believe there's really any instance that murder would be acceptable. I know there's some arguments that, for example, if a woman gets raped, as a matter of fact, one of the people I'm running against said that would be the exclusion. What I would say, though, is just because there's one wrong, does that mean that you get to go do another wrong, and that makes it okay? The rape is terrible. That's a terrible atrocity to happen to anybody. But just because that happens, do we get to kill somebody else as a response to that? And so I think what we need to do is, if a woman gets raped, we need to have, and she does get pregnant, we need to have some very serious support around her at the state level. Let's have that child automatically into adoption if she wants, and let's take care of those expenses with that pregnancy if she got raped. Let's do that. Let's rally behind that woman who's gotten violated. But let's not kill somebody because of it. And so that's where I'd say it's either rape it's either murder or it isn't. And if we believe it's murder, then it shouldn't be acceptable at all.
What's your stance and knowledge on Common Core?
Sure. So another one of my opponents in the primary actually is very pro-Common Core. That would be Miss Matthews. Yes, yeah. So she's very pro, and it's actually open, so I don't feel like I'm trashing her at all, because she helped somebody who was very pro Common Core get elected. So she's very out there about that. But I'm anti-Common Core. I think what we need to do is, again, have that local decision making about our curriculum, what's right for that specific community, that classroom, even to that year. So I'm very anti-Common Core.
Okay, why are you anti-Common Core? And what is your understanding of its effect upon the education system?
Sure. So I think the biggest thing for me is, from a fundamental level, we need to have local curriculum. And so what we have to do is we have to have people that decide what they need to teach their kids locally. From there, it's just flawed in and of itself. It's, I've seen some of the math questions. It's not even like you can add and multiply anymore. It's, you got to take things away and add things. I don't even know how to do it, to be honest with you. And I'm in business. I do numbers all day. I don't know how to do it. So it's just ridiculous, and it's a way for to set an agenda from the top and infiltrate it down through our communities at the most vulnerable level, which is our education system. And it's just not good at all. So you can look at it from a fundamental way, from a practicality way. It doesn't cut the slice any way you slice it. So that's kind of my opinion on it. And its effect on the education system is that It basically allows an agenda to be set at the top and run through our education system. And then it also allows for control. And it allows for control. So the federal government sets those mandates and those issues. And so they then get control over our local schools, over our children in our own communities, which is not a good thing, obviously.
My name is Jerome. What should be the relationship between government and private enterprise?
Sure. So government's role in the economy is to protect and provide basically an umbrella for people to play within the boundaries of rules of rights that we have and to play fairly. Past that, the government really doesn't have a role in the economy. Private enterprise is always more efficient. It's always going to be the way that provides the most prosperity. So there's some arguments that, well, if the government gets involved and creates all these jobs, what we'll do is we'll have all this prosperity because people are getting paid. Well, the private sector does that every day. And they do it cheaper and better paying jobs if you truly take the government out. And so anyways, the government's role is really just to stay as an overarching protection for people playing in the economic system underneath it.
Nick, how about what is your educational background?
Sure. So I went to the University of Oklahoma and got a double degree in Entrepreneurship and Energy Management. So yeah, never actually used energy management, but I'm a trained landman. So.
How would you deal with the feds if indeed Hillary Clinton or Sanders got elected and said that fracking and various oil issues could not be producing fossil fuel? How would you deal with the federal government in that respect? I know you...
If they ban fracking, is that what you're saying? Well, I mean, that's part of it. So my company is, we offload and unload frac sand. That's what we do. So we have the terminals. You gotta have a train station for frac sand just like you do for people. You gotta have people get off of a train, you gotta have the station. We have the station with the equipment for frac sand to put it on the trucks so they can go out to the west side. And so that's actually hits home for me. If they decided not to do that, like New York decided to put a moratorium on fracking, then what I would say is that would be a complete overreach of the federal government, and I would petition to just nullify that in our state. And so just through the legislative action that we have an autonomous state in community with 49 other states. And so we can make our own rules, and we actually don't have to follow everything if it's unconstitutional that the federal government puts out. And so I would just completely buck that. I mean, there's just no way that they could do that. So I would be totally against it, and I would use every legal precedence to have the legislator and have our legal staff and have our judicial system nullify that action. I mean, there'd just be a no factor for us. That would totally destroy Oklahoma's economy.
Well, I heard on the radio today that they have been successful at stopping the coal. Now they say they have to stop the natural gas. So, I assume you're not for that.
Absolutely not. No. that helps pay the bills.
Right. So, how are you going to stop this so-called science facts that all this stuff and the people here are causing the problems with our environment?
Are you talking about the earthquakes, or are you talking about...
They're wanting to stop all production of natural gas, except for a certain group of people. And
Are you saying, what if the EPA comes in and tries to do
the
that?
EPA is starting to come in now and putting more regulations on it to
Sure.
stop it.
Sure. So I mean, my first option would be we need to elect people to the federal level that need to get the EPA under control. But if we can't do that and they start making these same assertions that really would affect us and that are unconstitutional, I mean, that's the bottom line, unconstitutional.
Well, that's been thrown out.
Yeah, but if they do that, then we as a state are going to have to step up and exercise our autonomy as an individual state.
Yeah, sovereignty.
Absolutely, absolutely. We have autonomy, and we don't have to abide by certain unconstitutional rules. And so We can say that we're not going to follow that rule or that regulation with our own autonomy and sovereignty. So,
Do we wait till it goes into, they get their way like they did the coal companies? Or do we start at the beginning when they're starting?
honestly, I would prefer to be able to go through our U.S. Congress to do that. So, if they do something that does absolutely do that, what they did to the coal industry here, I think it's a hands down deal. I think almost every legislator in the state would probably do that because our economy would just be crippled without that. That's what those people that are pushing this don't understand, is that the entire economy in several states, these oil and gas states, would just be crippled without fracking.
They don't care. Without fracking, we're in the oil and gas business. Without fracking, we'll be riding horses.
Absolutely.
All there is to it.
Well, fracking is what's allowed that, we thought we were out of natural gas, and the fracking is what allowed us to be able to get that, tap into that. And then the oil reserves, that's what's allowed us to drill in these horizontal plays and be profitable at all. So, you're exactly right. Fracking is not this evil word. All it is it's a technique that allows us to go get more oil out of the ground. Actually, environmentalists ought to be happy about it because what it does is there's less wells that we have to drill with this new horizontal drilling method. So less surface, what they call surface pollution, per barrel of oil that we get out of the ground. It's a great deal. It's actually very environmentally friendly to just frack these things and be able to stick one well pad, and actually you can drill 4 wells on one pad. So it's really efficient, really environmentally friendly actually to do these processes.
I wanted to ask a question regarding the prison system. I taught at Naval Basic for a year, and most of the young women that I worked with had repeat offenses, mainly related to drugs, and almost every one of them had more than one child. So family members or foster care was having to take care of the children. Regarding your educational ideas, how would you establish or work towards establishing some form of training for not only the men but the young women to find effective jobs when they get out? Because actually the prison system is set up in such a way that it makes you dependent on that environment. So you get out of that environment and you're like, you don't really know what to do with yourself.
Yeah.
And because you have had such a controlled environment where they provide your food, they provide your housing, they provide your clothing, even though it may not be what you like. That was their biggest complaint. They didn't like wearing gray every day. But, I tried to emphasize how hard what the comparison is being in the real world as opposed to the environment of the prison system.
Sure.
So there is a comfortableness of being involved in that environment. And I think a lot of the reason that you see the recidivism is not only because they can't find a job, because most people won't employ them, but also because this is very comfortable. I don't have to do anything, it's all provided.
Yeah, absolutely. So, I guess to the first part of that, I volunteer with an organization called Team Ministries, and what they do is they really focus on people as they come out of prison, getting them job ready and hooking them up with a job. Because they found that a person having a job when they come out of prison is the #1 correlator to whether or not they'll be back in prison. And so it's common sense, things like that. I think we need to encourage partnerships. That's a private organization. We encourage those private partnerships, those nonprofits to be involved. And by the way, they're a Christian organization. So literally, almost every person that comes out of that organization talks about how their life has been changed and saved through that organization. That's because it's a vulnerable moment. I mean, you're at the bottom. And, the Lord works with us a lot of times when we're broken. I mean, this is a perfect time to not only just create people that are productive for society, but truly have life change in them. And so it's a big win. Now, what I think what would contribute to that is us having our prisoners do something productive while they're in prison. I mean, they don't just need to sit there. What we need to do is offer the opportunities and really encourage them through some manners that would coerce them to really participate and be involved in jobs and doing things that are productive for our society while they're spending their time serving their debt to society. So I totally would be on board for that. What I think we got to do is really get these guys ready because there's 2 aspects to this. If you're a believer, then there's an aspect of grace and mercy. So these people have served their justice by the time they get out. And so at that point, they've made their right to society according to our laws. And so now we have to have mercy and infiltrate them back into society successfully. But if you want to look at it from more of a selfish perspective or more from an external perspective, what it does for society is it keeps us from having to continue to deal with the problem over and over and over and over. And it becomes more expensive every time we have to deal with these people getting in trouble. And so it's good for us, it's good for them, it correlates to our values as Oklahomans, my values personally. So yeah, I think what we got to do is, they're branding it right now as being smart on crime. And I think that's a really good idea. We got to take a common sense approach, just like we as conservatives do to most issues. It's not the thing that sounds the best. It's what really provides the results we're looking for. It's fiscally responsible, and it correlates with our values, and it really helps our society maintain legitimate progression, because we can't keep spending more on prisons. There's not enough in the budget to do that. We're going to have to raise taxes if we want to keep going this route. But we don't want to do that. That's ridiculous. So we just need to change the way we're approaching it, and it'll be fine. Texas actually has done that already, and they've reduced their, I think they've reduced their prison budget by $50 million, and it was expected to grow by $2 billion over the same. So it was a just over a $2 billion swing by just restructuring the way they do corrections.
Mine's kind of a long question, but I want to know how much you've raised in your campaign, and I want to give you a little bit of, I worked for Ralph Crawford, helping him in the last election. And most people probably here are aware of what happened there. There was an establishment guy named Chip Carter that came out. Ralph had it in the bag, so to speak. Sooner Polling and numerous other places had him pick by far the winner. Long story short, the establishment, because of his money, come out the last few days right before the election without giving Ralph very much time to respond. But the other side of it was he had a ton of money to send several mailings and robocalls and what have you, lying about Ralph, saying he supported Obama, and I could go on and on. What I'm asking you, how much you've raised, is Ralph was kind of in between a rock and a hard spot because of the money that Chip Carter had from the so-called chamber and establishment type people. Well, obviously, probably everybody knows Chip won the Republican side, but Cindy Munson beat him in the general election. So if this happens, and the other thing is you've got 4 Republicans running, I know who I think the establishment candidate is, and it's not Matt like some people think it is. Maybe you can expand on, with me setting you up with that, what you plan on doing and how much you've raised.
Sure. So we haven't raised a ton of money. I think we're right at around 15,000 or so. There's 4 Republicans, so not everybody's going to raise a lot of money when there's that crowded of a field. But you're exactly right. What we're dealing with here is a district that really had a outside group come in and pour a lot of money in, and he was the establishment candidate, and you had Ralph, and there's this fraction here. And so what I've positioned myself somewhat uniquely to do is I'm a business owner, so the chamber isn't going to come out and just absolutely trash me like they did to Ralph. They honestly did that. So they're not, that provides a little bit of protection because I'm the only business owner in the race. So for them to do that would be ridiculous. And I know a lot of the guys that are at least members of the chamber, so it would be really, wouldn't be something that they would naturally want to do. So I'm positioning myself in that way, and then what I'm doing is I'm going out and telling the story of what we need to be and what we need to be doing, similar to what Ralph was. And Ralph has become a really good friend over this experience. And what we're trying to do is bring people together and say, look, we're trying to accomplish something that creates a value-oriented approach, not something that creates a special interest-oriented approach. And that in itself is going to turn away some dollars. That in itself is going to turn away some voters, and that's okay. But what we're really trying to do is we really need the grassroots support. That's what it boils down to. We need fundraising from the grassroots. I mean, if you care about what's going on in my district and in Oklahoma City in general, this is the district that the Democrats are using as a sounding board to go recruit better candidates. As a matter of fact, Jason Nelson, who's next to my district on one of the sides, he decided not to run. That's a Republican. There will be, I believe, will be a Democrat that wins that seat. It's just like mine. It's an urbanizing area, and I think truly that we will have a Democrat win that seat. And they're using this as a sounding board to recruit better candidates. So typically, you don't have any legitimate Democrats really try to run because we're such a Republican state. They don't want to get embarrassed. They can't fundraise as much. But now they're using this victory as a way to say, hey, I know you wouldn't think about running, but you ought to think about it. Look, we're able to pull one off in the middle of Oklahoma City. And they're starting to do that. They're running some very competitive races right now. And if they get to claim this one, and it's not just an anomaly, which we're trying to make it, then this will be the area that we sprout out and see neighboring districts start to turn Democrat and start to get those progressive values. And those will be represented by progressive values. And it starts here. So that's why it's so important. And I know I kind of didn't necessarily maybe address exactly what you're going after, but
well, I think you're naive if you think if they are for this lady, to think that they're not going to come out and do whatever desperate measures they took, like Chip Carter did.
Well, they're not necessarily totally in her corner because she doesn't have the ties that Chip Carter did.
Well, I agree with you there, but if I'm just saying what happened.
Yeah, and no, you're exactly right, and we've tried to negate that as much as possible. I've called on some of my business contacts, and I think that's going to be able to provide a hedge of protection, if you will. They're not going to come on board for me by any means, but what I don't think they're going to do is I don't think they're going to get real nasty in this campaign because of that. And I think, quite frankly, they've assessed the fact that wasn't effective in helping them win the general. And so I think what we'll be able to do is to be able to hedge off some of those attacks. And that's why I truly believe that if there's going to be a runoff here, and we're going to be best positioned to win. Me against somebody else, as opposed to if the establishment candidate that you're talking about gets in there, they will probably get involved against any of the other two Republicans and make sure she wins. I think I'm the only person that could head off that establishment money, just through some of the connections I've made in business, quite frankly. And so it's a good position to be in. And so we're taking a lot of strategy, and we're also just really counting on a lot of grassroots support.
Are you willing to go door to door?
I already have been since November. Yeah.
A little bit of a statement, basically. The majority of the people that go into the prison system come out do not want to change. They want to stay because they are either on welfare or they like the idea of getting over on other people as far as getting their money or property or whatever. They don't want to change. Now, there are a few, I would say, that do want to change the program for teaching them or educating them to be good. The majority of them, I don't think will.
Yeah, you're right. So we've created this certain class of people that will go into the prison system and just like break into somebody's car and get caught so they can have a free meal and a place to stay for the next month. Those people we're not going to be able to change. The best thing we can do there is structure our government's approach to our citizens in a way that doesn't allow them to basically just feed off of society. And that's restructuring how we look at that demographic from a government approach. But what I think we can do with our prisons is anybody that does want to get out of that, we need to offer the opportunity to do that. If they don't, no big deal. That's when we tackle that issue from another standpoint. So.
Desiree? The microphone's yours.
Okay. Thank you. Just keep going all the way down. Hi there. My name is Desiree Brown, and I am running for the United States House of Representatives District 3. If you don't know what district that is, it's, Yukon, Enid, Stillwater, Panhandle. There's 32 different counties out of 77. and I am running against a 22-year incumbent. So, I know that everybody tells me, you know that's a tough road, don't you? And I say, yeah, but my God's bigger. My God is bigger than Frank Lucas. So, and my God's bigger than Frank Lucas's money. So, the reason I've decided to run, I'm nobody. Just so you know, there's a reason you've never heard of me, because I've worked for AT&T for 12 years. I was a salesperson. I did outbound cold calling. Luckily, it wasn't in Oklahoma, although y'all are nicer people. And so I did that for 3.5 years, and then I went through a program that AT&T put on at Francis Tuttle to go be a cable splicing technician. And so I work outside, and I don't look anything like this. Probably 90% of the time you see me. I work in the heat, I work in the cold, and I just work. I am a hard-working person, and I feel that you can get anywhere in this country if you believe in hard work. That is what we in our country have decided that we should punish. And so everything in our system we have set out to punish hardworking people and just tell everybody else, well, you just deserve what we're going to give you. And whenever you set up a society that way, people get entitled and they want what the government's giving them. And for a while that works out, and you can set up a whole nice system of people taking and taking and taking. Well, eventually the takers outnumber the workers. And that's the point that we've got to in our country. I'm so sick of it that I get to go to work and I work really hard for 2 weeks, and then I get my paycheck and I look at how much I pay into our federal government and know that there's somebody out there that did absolutely nothing that's going to get that money. I don't work for other people. That's honestly, I go to work for myself. And honestly, when we set up this country, or when our founders set up this country, they wanted a system where you could do whatever you wanted to do. And we're defeating that. I mean, poor Nick Berry, I feel bad for you, man. As a small business owner, we're strangling you. The socialism in this country is so horrible. Whenever Milton Friedman was doing an interview in the 1990s, he called our system half socialist. I would love to know what that man thinks that our system is right now. And he referred to Bill Clinton as a socialist in the same interview, and I thought that was really funny. And so is his wife. So we're at a crisis point in our country. And I'm only 32, I'll be 33 on Thursday. So I've got a long time to be here. You look rather young yourself, kiddo, but we're going to be here a while, you know. And so, you know, I have a lot of people that are in the older generations, baby boomers, that say, well, you know, at least I don't have a long time left. And sadly, we will, and so will your children and your grandchildren. And so I want to go and be a voice for them. That's why I'm running, because I don't have any children myself, but I have nieces and nephews, and my friends have kids, and I love them dearly. And I don't want them to live in whatever society Obama and Hillary are creating. That is my goal, is to stop all of this. The government was not intended to be our nanny state. They don't tell us what jobs to do, and they don't tell us how hard we're going to work, or how many hours we're going to work, or what pay we're going to have. That's what you get when you get socialism. You don't just get some half-hybrid society that we have now. You get communism. And communism always ends badly. It ends in millions and millions of deaths. And we've been walking this road. It's a death march. We are walking this road for over 100 years. And the more we let them win, the more our children are going to be suffering. And that's in every literal sense you can say that. It's not hyperbole. It's not something that's just trying to scare you, because I hear it all the time myself. And so that, if we can just stop incrementally, just stop Common Core, you know, from the government. If we can stop the EPA, if we can stop the Department of Education as a whole, as far as I'm concerned, we throw that out the window. There's many things that we can get rid of, and I'm all for a flat tax plan, just to make it fair. You know, when we all have skin in the game, we care a little more. And so, you know, I don't care if you make $50,000. I don't care if you make $500,000. If you pay 10%, we're all fair. It's fair that way. We're even. And so that's what I want. I just want the government to be what they were intended to be. limited, and they have enumerated powers in the Constitution, and they have far gone beyond that. We don't need an administrator to tell us what to do on every little thing and every little aspect of our life. I don't need them to tell me what kind of light bulb I need to use in my house. I don't need them to tell me how efficient my toilet needs to be in my house. And so we've just gotten to this point where it's absolutely ridiculous what they expect out of us. We were not intended to be a society that was run the way we are being run. And so I want for you to be able to retire. I mean, I know many of you are in retirement. I don't want you to have to go and get another job because, you know, they've taxed us to death or they've had a bail-in and took all your money. They've already done it in 2 countries. It's only a matter of time before that stuff reaches here if we don't change it. And y'all will be the people that will be affected the most by it because y'all are the ones that had savings. People my age, they don't have savings. They barely have jobs. They barely have their own house. So there's, I know it's sad, isn't it? But we're millennials, you know, and the millennial generation is sad. And I don't even know how I came out a constitutional conservative, to be honest, because I talk to the same people I went to school with, and they are Bernie fans.
Right.
They just don't know. If you don't know, you think it's good. And it's nice when people tell you, I'm going to give you free college. You know, when you have, you know, it's like, it's not going to be free. There's nothing free in this world. There is no such thing as a free lunch. And so that's really why I'm here. I don't care about money. I don't care about power. I don't really want to go to Washington, D.C. because the people there are not like us. As Nick said, we are the best people in the country. I've been a lot of places in America, and I love Oklahoma more than any place I have ever been. The people here are the nicest people. We have good, common decency, and you don't see a lot of that anymore. We smile at each other on the street. We open each other's doors whenever we're coming up in, and so, and we, you know, I've even seen men opening doors for the women. That happens here. You don't see that in a lot of places anymore. So chivalry is not dead, and we can bring those values back to this country if we just do what Oklahomans do. Just get up, get a job, go to work, pay your bills, and go home. So if y'all have any questions, I mean, I'm really open to anything you'd have to ask. Yes, sir.
Well, you're in a farming district.
Yes, sir, I am.
So,
Just
and I'm not a farmer.
Just a minute.
Oh, okay.
Who are you?
Richard, I'll take from you, heard it from me.
I heard you. Yeah, I'm from a very big farm community, yes.
Right. Are you, and I'm not a farmer,
Nor am I.
so what are you going to do for the farmer and the city folks? I know you probably have to really do a balanced job.
Right.
Because I really don't like farm subsidies
I
unless
either.
it's part of the constitutional, the right to life.
Right.
I mean, we need food.
Yes. I agree, you know, we gotta eat to live. That's
Right.
part of the
Well,
system.
I don't want to pay for not growing food.
Right, yeah, I don't wanna pay for farmers not growing food either. I have a problem with a lot of farm subsidies. I grew up in Newcastle, so I'm a city kid. You know, Oklahoma City's my city, but I got transferred up to Enid, and we've been there for a while now. But as far as the farming community goes, a lot of the farm community likes Frank Lucas because they think that he's doing them good. Farm subsidies aren't helping anyone. I hate to break the news, you know, but no subsidy really helps anyone, especially for small business. The only people is they pick winners and losers, and I'm not a fan of that. As we have crop insurance and things like that the government has, and I don't have a problem with small farms getting some sort of, you know, insurance or something like that whenever we've had some crop failures in the past few years. We've had really bad droughts. I know people in the city probably don't realize it as much as we do out where I live, but my coworker is a farmer. He's been a farmer his whole life, but he is, you know, in his 50s, and the median age of a farmer in Oklahoma is 58 years old. It is a dying industry, and it's because we are giving all the money to the millionaires and the corporate farms and Monsanto. And so, you know, that's what we've done to our food supply. Our food supply is very important, and people don't realize it, but we're giving control of it to the government. And I don't know how you feel about that, but I don't feel very secure in knowing our government's in charge of our food supply. So when it comes down to it, with the farm subsidies, most of them go to the millionaires. And so if there's the farmers, the small town farmers, they get a little bit, like, I ask farmers all the time, just because I know I live in a farm community and I know it's really important to them how we do things. And the problem is if you have a really big farm, okay, now I don't know if you know about tractors and combines and things like that, but if you go buy you a new tractor, it'll cost you hundreds of thousands of dollars. New combines can cost you $500,000. So if you want to be a small-time farmer, you almost had to have been born into it. There's no way somebody my age can just say, hey, I'm going to go be a farmer. Good luck, because you can't afford the land, you can't afford the equipment, and you don't have the knowledge to know, how the season's going to go. It's something that is inbred almost into our society up there. They just grew up farming. And, I have a problem with that, because we have to do something to help these poor guys. My coworker, he has to have a full-time job to be able to farm. And he's in his 50s. He wants to retire, but they don't help subsidize him. They're giving all the money to the millionaires. So as far as I'm concerned, if we could get an incentive program to help grow farmers, it would help everybody out. Because if you have families that have been farming for hundreds of years, and then they have children that just decide they don't want to go into farming, well, that's one less farmer. And then you can't replace them. So if they decided to not stay in the farming industry, that part's gone. They sell out and it'll end up in a corporate farm's hands. And we're going to subsidize them. We subsidize lots and lots of people who will plant a crop knowing it's going to fail just to get farm subsidies. And so that's why I'm against farm subsidies.
My name is Scott. Several weeks ago, we had a young lady talk to us about the right to farm.
Yes.
bill. But one of the main information that she gave us is that 285,000 acres in Oklahoma is owned by China and Japan, and the food that is raised on those acreage is shipped there, not here in the United States or in Oklahoma. Shipped out of country, period, to their home countries.
Mm-hmm. Now, I believe it. I have not heard that, but I do believe it. Yeah. Who is this lady that spoke here?
Remember?
Cynthia.
The VP of Kirkpatrick Bank.
Okay.
She's very pro-subsidy, so.
Okay. Yeah, I believe it. With all the farming stuff that goes on in our area, there's a lot of sketchy stuff. And the government owns a lot of Oklahoma. So I wouldn't see them not selling it off to other countries.
Well, the United States is the only country that sells its land to foreign nationals.
Right. Yeah.
Next to Jimmy Carter.
My name's Jerome. Ma'am, are you familiar with TPA, TPP, and TTIP? Does these acronyms mean anything to you?
The trade policy agreements?
Trans-Pacific Partnership, TPP,
Okay.
and Trade Promotion Authority. Are you familiar with that? Do you think they are really all about free trade?
No, I do not. No, I don't believe that they have anything to do with free trade. I think they all should have voted against it, but, they even talked Ted Cruz into voting for it, and that's why he ended up calling Mitch McConnell a liar. So, but, yeah, I know what you're talking about, and no, as our country, we have been involved in, okay, I'm going to try to say this without sounding like an isolationist. Our system was not set up when the founders created our country, and even in George Washington's farewell address. Oh, sorry, that hurt. Is that you? Oh.
Get away from the speaker.
Oh, yes. There you go. Well, in George Washington's farewell address, he said that one of the worst things we can do is get ourselves involved in other countries. I mean, we can have alliances and like trade with them, but we don't need to be making friends. And that is where we get ourselves into trouble, because we make these friends out of places like Saudi Arabia and Turkey, and we almost get ourselves dragged into war over what we're doing, and we end up hurting our own citizens because of it. And so as far as I'm concerned, we should have as little, friendships as possible. But I don't mind having trade with people as long as it is free trade and fair trade.
Richard again. As long as Lucas has been in office, and I've sent him postcards or things like that, he has never answered. He's never said that he mailed back. I do call his office up sometimes, and talk with him, but, when I send him a card, I expect an answer,
Right?
especially on gun issues,
Certainly.
and nothing. So are you going to be more communicative?
The one complaint I hear more about Frank Lucas than any other thing is he is a bad communicator. He does not respond. I personally have experienced this. There are many, many things that I've contacted him about, and I've gotten no response as well, and he always ends up voting the way I don't want him to. So I agree with you. His communication is terrible, and even the people that I've heard have gone to his town hall meetings and have brought up these same issues to him, he listens and he ignores and turns and starts answering and asking other questions. I agree with you. That is a very big problem. If you're going to be a representative of the people and a servant of the people, it is your responsibility to be in contact with those people. And that honestly, I am huge on social media. That is where I've gotten most of my support. And so honestly, I think any way you can communicate to me, I don't care if you call me, text me, write me, whatever, I will respond to you. That is my goal. There was no one that it was going to be a special interest to me other than the people of Oklahoma. Y'all are my special interest people. So I care about what you think, because that's all that we're there for. There's no other reason for me to be there than to do what you want me to do. I don't care what, Monsanto wants me to do. I don't care what any other organization wants me to do. That's not, I don't care. Like I said, I love Oklahoma. And so I want to do what's best for us and our people. We are the United Capital States of America. So we are not the United States with a capital U, with a little u, capital S. So we are a sovereign state. And that is why we're there. Not to be some big federalist country. So yeah, if you ever, even now, if you want to call me, email me, shoot me anything, I will gladly respond to you.
We had the same experience with Frank, and when he first started, we were major. Oh, I'm sorry.
Hi, I'm Carrie. We were major contributors to Frank when he first started running. We really wanted Republicans out there, and he wouldn't even respond to us.
When he started?
Huh?
When he started as well?
He maybe the first year when he was trying to get money, and maybe the first time he ran for re-election. Right. From then on, we've never heard a thing, even though we've written him letters, we've called him, we've begged almost, nothing. Yeah. But as my husband said, if you want to see Frank Lucas, invite him to a dinner. He'll be there.
Oh, he likes you.
Is there a question there?
Well, I'll ask a question. I mean, I'm not in your area, but I'm Sherry Crenshaw, and I'm wondering how you're doing your financing when you're up against a candidate such as his.
I already know that I'm well outspent. He has a super PAC, and he's got hundreds and hundreds of thousands of dollars. I'm not naive. I plan on outworking him, because that's the only chance I have, and that's why I'm knocking on doors every chance I get. Now, as far as fundraising goes, I mean, I've got my website set up where you can donate money to me, and my website's votefordesiree.com, just to make it a little easier. But I know the economy we live in Oklahoma, and I care about the people, and so I hate asking people for money. I really do. And I know this is the wrong job to pick if I don't want to ask people for money. But I just know what the economy's like now. And I know $25 is a lot of money to some people, especially in the grassroots movement, especially retired people, And so if people want to give me money, I will gladly accept your money. But as far as just going out and blatantly asking people for money, I don't. And some people do for me just because they know I need it. And I know that the best way to win is to get my name out there. Sadly, we know that most people only vote by a name. And so if I can get my face in front of their face, then I have a better chance at winning. And that's what I'm doing. I am a full-time worker, and so whenever I get off work, that's what I do, is I change into my campaign clothes and go door to door.
I'm doing the video, but my name's Steve Malinowski, and I just wanted to let you know I really like your talk, and also that June 28th is the date for the GOP to vote, and we have good candidates now. The 4 incumbents that voted for the omnibus, the unlimited spending, so their kids have a bad legacy, and also voting for Boehner, Ryan. I think we got to get rid of those guys. And so Desiree Brown for Lucas, against Lucas, Desiree Brown. Jaron Jackson against Mullen, Jaron Jackson. Against Russell, you got Frank Volpe. And again, against Cole, you got Dr. James Taylor, JT. And you got also Sean Roberts. So we have choices. But we got to get out there and vote and let people know that it's important to vote on those dates. And it's important to vote against these giants.
Yeah,
I agree.
that's right.
Yeah, my name's Don. Do you have any other Republican opponent?
No.
In the primary?
No, it's me and Frank Lucas.
Okay, super. And do you have yard signs?
I am getting them. I'm ordering them today. So
Okay.
I'm not going into debt for this. So
Yeah.
because that's the dumbest thing you can do when you're running as a politician. But so as soon as I get money in, I buy things. And so that's what I'm doing today.
I'd like to talk to you when you're done.
Certainly, certainly.
Thank you.
Again, my name is Sherry. I went to the town hall meeting for Steve Russell.
Okay.
And he addressed the omnibus situation because that was a big concern. It took an hour of time out of his time.
Right.
What he clearly said was that this was the first time that they had been able to come up with a budget. Okay?
Yes, I know.
And every other year it's been a continuing resolution.
Right.
Without a budget, they cannot address the issues that have come before Congress.
Right.
Because they had no budget.
Right.
But with the budget, they could do that. And the reason that they agreed to vote for the omnibus bill was that it gave them the freedom to go in now and begin to take away a lot of the issues that they had been fighting against. But without a budget, they couldn't do that.
That
And
sounds
so
like
he
it's
was saying that the omnibus bill made it possible for them to make it a mini bus bill.
Bull.
And bring back
Bull.
some of the issues that we have been upset about. So anyway, that was his explanation as to why they were
Don't hold water.
doing that.
Well, so it sounds like they got to him because they sure snowed him over.
Yeah, exactly.
So okay, now with the omnibus bill, there's no way I could have voted for it. I don't care if it was the only budget they had.
Yeah.
Anything that's going to fund Obamacare and fund Planned Parenthood with taxpayer dollars,
Exactly.
I'm sorry, I can't vote for that. And so it also even funded the Syrian refugees coming in here. I don't know if anybody knew all that, but so there's many things that was in that bill that was. I don't even know how any conservative or somebody who calls themselves a conservative would have voted for it.
Exactly.
And they always give the same sort of answer, the political answer. Well, you know, we actually did something. Yeah, just because it's worse, you know, doesn't make it, well, we did something. Well, the way I look at it, if they would just shut the government down, then they could do what Newt Gingrich did in the 90s.
There you go.
I know that the Democrats love to use the scare tactic of, oh, you're going to shut the government down.
Yeah.
Well, you know, maybe that would be a good thing. Because 80% of the government runs anyway whenever it's shut down, and everybody else gets their back pay. So it's not a big deal to shut the government down.
Exactly.
It's a tool. And the whole point of check and balance is to hold the power of the purse. And if you're just going to hand it over as a Republican House and a Republican Senate to a Democrat president who has a phone and a pen, then you're not doing any better than the Democrat Congress did. And so as far as I'm concerned, there's no way I could vote for something like that. I would be voting to shut the government down, and they would hate me too. So,
Yeah.
so go ahead.
I was wanting to find out your, I'm Karen. What is your feeling about nullification?
I like nullification. I don't know. I know it's not easy to do. I get asked this question a lot. And so, and everybody that watches KuickSand Hall knows all about nullification.
Yeah.
And so, yeah, I love KuickSand, but
I do too.
I like nullification. I like the theory of it. And if we could actually get it to pass, it would work. It would help Oklahoma a lot. It's just that politicians get in the way of a lot of issues like that, and then as long as they keep telling you something can't be done, then everybody takes that at its word. But yes, I like nullification. I think if we could use that more here in Oklahoma, we wouldn't really have much of a federal government stronghold in here.
Moderator takes exception. What's your position on Article 5?
Okay, now the Article 5 convention, and I know I have friends that are against it. If that's the only tool we can use to, the Constitution was already set up to rein in the federal government. That's why we have the Constitution. But when it gets to a certain point, if Congress is not doing their job, which they certainly are not, they are giving all their check and balance to the president, so they're basically his minions. And even we have the Supreme Court doing the same thing. Article 5 convention may be the only way we can change some things with term limits. I like term limits, but honestly, term limits are not the problem. We have the power to get those people out of office. This is on us. And so if we are not doing our job as the people, the whole we, the people, has to mean that we have to pay attention. And so if we, the people, are not doing our job, they're going to run amok. That's what government does. That's what power does to people. They say power corrupts, and absolute power corrupts absolutely. That's Lord Acton. But if you are going to let them run wild, sometimes the state legislatures may have to step in and do their job in the Article 5 convention and, implement term limits. If we're going to have an electorate that doesn't want to pay attention because it's just too complex or too corrupt, or I just don't like politics, I hear that a lot. I don't want anything to do with politics. And I'd say, it affects every part of your life. So if you care, you have to care about politics, whether, even with the circus show that it is today. But yeah, I like the Article 5 convention, and I'm fine with it as long as it's followed correctly.
That's the problem. It's not.
Are you aware, my name is Jerome, are you aware of the many ramifications that the United Nations affects America's liberty and freedom through Agenda 21? And
Yes.
would you think it would be a great idea for us to get out of that Trojan horse?
I think it would be great for us to get out of the United Nations. We spend more money, funding it, and we get little out of it. And I agree with you. This whole one world government idea that people have, we should not even. It shouldn't even be an afterthought for America. We are a great country. We can be a great country if we do what we are supposed to do. It's on us. It's our power. And as long as we do our job and elect the right people, then we don't need the United Nations to come in and implement their Agenda 21 on us either. I know that it's okay to have some form of place where leaders can go to discuss what we're going to do and, to keep us out of war. I'm not for sending people into war. I think the only reason we should ever be in a war is if they're hurting us, like Pearl Harbor. We shouldn't get ourselves into all this junk that we've sent all our soldiers in over in Iraq and Afghanistan. And it's obviously not helping, especially when you have a president that just pulls out in the middle of it, and now they're back to where they were in Iraq, and so all those people died for no reason. So, but as far as, the United Nations goes, as far as, at this point, we need to get out. They're not doing anything beneficial for us, and there's no reason for us to be there.
What's your stance on the immigration or the takeover by the illegal immigrants?
The invasion? Yeah.
Yeah, the invasion.
I like what Bobby Jindal had to say, that immigration without assimilation is an invasion. So if we're going to let people in our country and not become Americans, we have laws. I don't have a problem with people following the law and coming into our country and wanting to be Americans. There are plenty of people that want to do that, and that system needs reformed. But with the illegal immigration, send them home. I'm sorry, if you're breaking the law, we need to send you home. And you can come back, get at the back of the line, and follow all the other people that want to be here and want to pay the money and do everything that's necessary to become a citizen.
Yeah.
Question?
My name is Red. I'd like to know your stance on Real ID.
The Real ID program that we've got, well, that's another one of those encroaching government systems. I don't like the idea of our government tracking everything that we do and having everything in a database. But the more information they get on us, the more it can turn sour really quickly. And with the people we keep putting in government that want to control everything, I'm completely against. We have the big old facility in Utah that has all the metadata, and they say, oh, it's just metadata, nobody cares. One day someone might care. And that's all it takes. You get a dictatorship whenever you let someone have that kind of information. And I'm not going to volunteer all of our information to a federal government. So, yeah. Anyone else?
Are there any other questions? I would encourage each of you to support these candidates in any way you're able to. With that, I think we stand adjourned.
Do you have any bumper stickers?
Not on me. All I've got is my card just because it doesn't carry very much.